Good morning. Time to head to Berkey. We've got some fertilizer to spread. We're going to take our dump trailer down with us so Dad can haul that stone that we've got piled down there. And we'll see how we do. We'll either bring the spreader back, maybe, or maybe we'll bring the combine back later. I don't know. Anyway, we got to get our trailer hooked up. Hey, look at that. It's my fertilizer. What a deal. Alright, we got our spreader configured back to map. Got our gate down to 1 inch. Very small opening. Probably could go a little more than that and just slow the bell speed down, but that's where I had it before, so that's where all my settings are in the computer. Moved our flow divider back. Oh, crap. I didn't bring that thing that's supposed to go on top of there. Crap. Alright, so this is what we're spreading first. This is more of our map. You see it's a pretty big granular size. You should be able to throw it pretty good. I think I'm going to run over to the farm and see if I can't find even a piece of cardboard or something that I can just bend and throw over this. Just to try and widen it up a little bit. Basically what it does is there's a cover plate that goes over and it just forces the fertilizer to fall towards the center of the spinners a little bit better. I don't know. Take it out for lime, you put it in for fertilizer. I forgot it. It's sitting on the bench up to Waldron. I know exactly where it's at. This is our first field. This one out here that we're gonna do, and all the zones there. All right, change of plans. So we're gonna go to the field where we spread lime first because I wanted to come back to the farm here to make something to make my plate here. Look at that. Just, oh, that'll work perfect. Just cut a sign, fold it on there, pull a little zip tie through to hold it in place. That'll work. Okay, well, we were in that field where we spread lime yesterday. We've got a map that looks like that. So we're covering most, but not all of the field. 2 different rate zones, green and the red there. See our mat falling off of our spinners. Looks like it's working just like it's supposed to. Or falling off of our belt onto the spinners, I should say. Cool. We'll go a little ways and check our rate. I got the gate about where I think it should be, but we might have to tweak it just a little bit. Yeah, the map is a totally different spread and ball game than the lime or even the potash. The rates are just so low. Like we're at 100 pounds per acre right here. The green zone, which is just a small spot anyway, is only 120 pounds. So you just can't really see it spread. But that's what my camera is for, because I can definitely see it pouring onto the spinners there. So we know we're getting product on. And my scale verifies the weight. I did the pass around the outside of the field, the perimeter, and we were off by like 200 pounds. So I actually opened up the gate one more round, or one crank on the handle there. So we'll check it again after we make another round here and see. But I would assume my product density number is probably pretty close, being that we had that dialed in really well before. So unless I have the gate back in the exact same spot, it's going to be off a little bit, and I got it as close, but a crank on the handle is about 1/8 of an inch in the opening, and when you're set at 1 inch, an inch and 1/8 or 7/8 versus 1 inch can make a big difference. So we'll get it. It's close enough. All right, well, there's the first field. We've got it done, spread. There's not, you can't see it in there, but there's still almost 8,000 pounds. 7,800 pounds. So we've got those other 3 fields to spread yet. None of them take as much as this one did. This was the field that got more, I guess. It's not half of it yet, but it's more than the rest of the field. So we'll go get the rest of them done, and then they're going to get our potash brought out to us. So this field here, there's only one zone up in this corner. You can see it won't take much to do that. And then we'll jump across. There's another field just, it butts right up next to this one, but we technically farm them separate because it's a mile straight through. And I can't load both prescriptions at the same time, so we can't just spread straight through it. But when we're harvesting, we can't make it from one end of the field to the other, even with our 8-row corn heads. So we've always farmed them separate and just put end rows through the middle there. This field's a little more all over the place as far as the map goes. And we just kind of got to cover the whole thing, even though there's this big empty chunk here that doesn't get anything, the black zones. It's fine. It doesn't take that long to just drive across the field. We're going 12 miles an hour and just let it kick on and off where it needs to. I tell you what, I've got some pretty darn good suppliers. We got another fertilizer tender sitting there full, waiting for me, ready to go. Like, I thought they would bring it out when I called them and load it, or I would even take it to them, because, well, let me show you. You see that big building over there? See the white one across the road? That's the fertilizer place. That's where we got to go. It's just a mile away. It's not a big deal. I would have went to them, but they're like, no, we'll bring it out. You can use it when you need it. Okay. So he was showing me how to run it. We'll get our map spread out. That's got our potash in it, and we'll try and get that spread today too. And on top of that, I have secured some gypsum and might get the first load of that later this afternoon or first thing in the morning. We're going to get 2 loads of it down here, and we'll get that spread right away before we go back and spread the potash that is sitting on the ground back at Waldron that they delivered this morning. So we got lots of fertilizer spreading to do. Keep her moving. We've only got about 4,100 pounds left. Oh, perfect. Our scales match. That's awesome. Whoa, hit the button. Well, now we got to skip. Anyway, we've only got about 4,100 pounds left. It's not a lot. We've got the rest of this to do, and then we have a field across the road. We've got just one zone in that field, and we'll get that one, and then the field across the road, across our bridge there. I think there's 2 zones in that field, but we'll spread out anything we've got left over there. I ordered 6.5 tons, and they brought me like just a touch over that. Should have been 7,000 pounds. I think they brought me 7,200, or I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically we should have enough to do an extra 2 to 5 acres would be my guess. This field did not take much, and we're freehand driving a little bit of it just because. Close enough. That's it. That's all it needed. All right, down to the last one. They're doing some paving or something on the road here. Got a flagger guy right outside the field entrance. All right, so we're across the road from where we were there now. This is the zone in this field. You can see what it is there. I'm debating whether I go across the rows so it's less passes or make lots of short turns. Probably going to end up making lots of short turns. Is what it is. Well, we just ran empty, or pretty darn close to it. So I got the main zone that we needed to done, and then we just made, what's that, 2 rounds? Or something like that on the side here. Basically, I had like 900 pounds of fertilizer left when we were done, and yeah, okay, so I over-ordered that, which is about what I had extra. But that's like $300 worth of fertilizer, so no big deal. Spread it out there. That phosphorus will stick around until we need it. But all is good. So we're going to go over and load up with some potash off of that tender over there. All right, well, we are starting to load up with the potash here. I got our gate opened up to 2 inches. Should be good. Is this open? Empty already? There we go. This is working. We're gonna load her up. Well, the goal here is to get it half empty, so we're on bin 3 of 6. So if we can get this one empty, We'll have half of it. That should be good. All right, well, we got 25,000 pounds on. 25,190, which should be a little over half of what was on that truck. So that's good. That's what we wanted. We're gonna go spread this on that first field that we did, the one we did lime on, and we should have plenty to do that. And we'll come back over here and spread it out and get the other half emptied out. Neighbors out discing their stalks. They got basically the same setup as us. They're just pulling a rolling basket, something behind it, which we do in the spring, but not the fall. All right, well, we're back over here. Third trip across this field. Once with the high cal lime, once with the MAP, and now with the potash. Now the potash is a little different than the MAP in the sense that we put on a lot more of it. So MAP is our phosphorus, right? So we're putting on somewhere between 100 and 140 pounds of MAP for phosphorus needs. Now, that may seem like a fairly low rate, especially considering that there are some zones that get 0, which is true, but it is not our only phosphorus source. We are also adding a lot of phosphorus in our starter blends for our corn. 1034-0, low salt starter in furrow, those have lots of phosphorus in them, and so we're getting it there as well. The potash, however, this is our primary source of potassium, and we really aren't putting any, or at least not very much more on in the spring or in a liquid form. And so we have higher rates. The rates are anywhere from 250 in the green zones, and I'll tell you in a second here, 160 in the red zones. And there's our map, and you'll also notice that we cover the entire field. There is nothing with a 0 rate, and so we use a lot more of the map. So where for the whole, all the wheat stubble ground, double crop bean ground down to Berkey here, we use just over 6.5 tons, or about 6.5 tons of MAP. We're using 25 tons of the potash. So it's a little higher use product. And in general, since we have had our crop consultant doing our soil testing and making our recommendations for us, the overall theme has been our pHs are generally pretty good, so we don't spread a huge amount of lime. Our phosphorus levels are not bad. There are spots, but for the most part, they're really not bad. But the potassium levels were a little bit low across the board. And so we've been, over the last 4 or 5, 6 years now, making a conscious effort to spread more potash and raising those K levels, which I think is probably a contributing factor to our better yields that we've been pretty consistently getting over the last 4, 5, 6 years. So funny how things match up like that, and it's not any one thing that leads to better yields or super high, increases in your yields and production. It's a multitude of lots of little things, but the potash and the potassium levels is a pretty large component of that, I think. This is one of those you get the same view over and over jobs, and it's a little boring after a while, but we're using the pile up and we're covering the field. We're about done, another round or 2 here, and we'll have this one wrapped up. We'll head back over to the other group of fields, get it emptied, get the tender empty so that those guys can come pick that up. Super generous of them to let that sit there for a few hours and let me use it. Then we might stop and go grab some lunch, because it is 1:30 and I have not eaten anything today. So, we can do that. I got a truck over there. Did I film that I'm in this field? I'm in this field. And we moved. Yeah, I don't know if I did or not, but anyway, we're about done with this field. It had, in general, lower rates. Like, that's a 120 and a 160 zone instead of where we were 150 to, or 140 to 250 in the last one, whatever it was. So we had enough in the spreader, basically, to do it. Now, we're about empty. There's only 1,100 pounds left there, but we have 1 pass left to make. I think we'll make it. And I'm watching in my camera there. See the stuff pouring out. I can still see a little bit in the spreader. Can't because the windows are dirty, but you get it. Yeah, so then we can go empty, and we'll jump across to our imaginary boundary into the other field and one across the road. Those must have higher rates because I shouldn't have hardly any extra of the potash here. Like, it should just about use it up. Oh, hey, look at that! My gypsum's here! At least the first trailers. Cool! Well, we'll finish our potash and then we'll keep spreading. We'll talk more about this here in a little bit, but it's not lime, it's gypsum. It's a little different. It's a little wetter than I would like. Oop, get the paperwork here. It kind of clumps and balls up, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes through the spreader. I'm worried about it bridging up and not flowing very well, but it's very fine. If we can get it to feed through the gate, it should hit the spinners and spread pretty well. Oh, we'll go ahead and load up the last of our potash here so they can take this, and then I think I'm gonna go, like I said, go grab some food, come back and spread out the potash, and then we're gonna spread that stuff out tonight too if we got time. So I have another 50 ton of potash that got dumped at Waldron this morning. Same truck driver that just dumped this, actually. And so we got to get there and get that stuff spread. It's not supposed to rain today or tomorrow, but there's a chance on Thursday. So I want to get as much of it done before Thursday as possible. Which means finish it up down here so we can get back to Waldron. They aren't going to get me that other load tonight, so we're not going to finish here tonight. But if they're here first thing in the morning with that other 50 ton of gypsum, that stuff won't take terribly long to spread. Hopefully we can be back up there late morning and get a bunch of potash spread on corn stalks at Waldron. Got myself some lunch and we got back in the tractor and we've been spreading for a while. We got the field there across the road done. We're doing this little one right here along our ditch or whatever. This one's the one we call the Creek Flats, and it's the most hilly terrain field we have. Yeah, elevation, yeah. This one has more slope than anything else, but it's got this little bit of river bottom ground here where we are right now. And yeah, so anyway, we're gonna finish this one up. Just got one more pass here. And then we'll go over to the one where the gypsum is piled and spread out the rest of what's in our spreader. We've got about 10,000 pounds left when we're done here, something along those lines. Should work out just about right. And we'll start spreading some gypsum. Boy, we're covering some acres today. It's the same acres over and over, but we're hitting a lot of them. There's lots of tractors out in the neighborhood this afternoon. We've got the neighbor right next to us. Their red tractor and a Landau disc and a packer. We've got the neighbor that I showed you earlier across the road over there, but it's too glary and dusty to be able to see them. And then, as we look across the section, let's see, there's a green machine. Sure, I think he's got a chisel plow, I'm not 100% sure. And then a little farther off there's another red tractor running. Lots of activity today. We got our, oh, look at that, it just reverses. Oh, how about that? Anyway, we've got our disc and stalks done down here, so we're not in the same game as some of these guys, but we do got to rip this wheat stove. We'll bring the 2730 down here and get all of this stuff done. Dad would like to finish at Waldron first, so that's the intention, is to do the rest of the ripping up there, and then bring the ripper down here. We'll see how long that takes. Just about done with the potash here. We've got like a half a pass left that I don't know if we're gonna have enough product for. We're down to less than 200 pounds of product in the spreader. It's enough to get to the other end of the field, probably not enough to make it back on that half a, yeah, oh well, it'll be all right. Yeah, you can't see it. It's still coming off the belt. All right, well, let's set it up for and start loading some gypsum. So we got to pull our little makeshift divider off that we don't need anymore. That worked really well, by the way. Yeah, we just about broke it off. A little fertilizer inside the ribs. Good enough. Cut that off of there. And then we got to push this back. We're going to set it up like we do for lime. Alright, so we got that off, we pushed this back in, we opened our gate up. We're just going to go to a 5-inch opening. We're going to try that. I don't know how well that'll work or not, but our rates are lower. We're going to go for about 700 pounds to the acre, where with the lime we were doing 1,500 pounds is a minimum, up to 5,000 pounds, so we're a lower rate, so we don't need such a big gate opening. Anyway, let's try that. Load her up here. So this stuff is just a little wet. Now it's dried off since he dumped it here, but it's going to be the same inside. So I don't know. I'm concerned about it sticking together, but we'll see how it flows and getting in the spreader. And what I'm really worried is it's going to bridge up on me, and that's going to make this a pain in the butt. But we got to get it spread, so let's do it. All right, well, we are loaded up. We got to have a pretty good load on here. What do we got? That's it? Oh, really? Okay, this stuff is not nearly as dense as lime. If I had that spreader looking like that with lime in it, we'd have well over 30,000 pounds. Like, well over 30,000. Okay, that's interesting then. So, what do I set my stuff at? I don't have my scale with me to measure density. We're gonna have to look it up. We're gonna look up the density of gypsum. I have 2 spec sheets on this stuff. It's got to be in one of them. All right, well, this is one of those, it's a dang good thing we've got a scale situations, because honestly, I have no idea what this density is. The stuff I look up online shows me it should be 85 to 90. That doesn't make any sense with how much weight is on my spreader. And the 2 information paperwork sheets that I have on this specific gypsum doesn't have a density. Of course not. But I do have an analysis. We're going to talk about what this is in a minute, but we got to get everything set up and working right first. Plus, we're losing daylight fast. Well, it seems to be falling off the belt okay and flowing through nice and level across the top, which means that we're feeding in okay. Let's see how it uses the pile up. I'm just hoping we don't start bridging up in the box. That's my major concern right now. That and getting our rate set right, but we put some initial numbers in there. We'll make the path around the outside of the field here, and we'll see how this rate controller matches the scale and make some adjustments from there. So 60-foot spread width instead of 80, so it's going to take us a little longer to cover the field. From what I can see of the spread pattern, it's not near as dusty as lime, but I can actually see the particles flying a little bit. Doesn't look bad at all. In fact, we're throwing it a little farther than our 30-foot each way, so, and you want some overlap, so that's not a bad thing, but I'm also throwing some on the neighbor over there. I'm sure he won't mind. So, looks to be okay. That looks really good. I like that. Let's see what happens here. Can you see it flying there with the sun? Yeah, you can kind of see it. All right, well, we made our pass around the outside, and then I just turned around and we stopped. We're not putting it on heavy enough. So we're at 17,000 pounds is what it thinks we should have left, and we've got 20,000. So our density number is too high. So we're going to go in here to product setup, product information, and take this 75 down to, we need to go fairly drastic. Let's go to 70, and we'll see what happens. We'll go back up if we have to. Okay, and then we're going to make our rate controller match 20,260, 20,260, and we'll make another round and see how close they are now. Okay, are we ready for today's science lesson? Giddy up, let's go. Gypsum, what is it? Why are we spreading it on our fields? What rate are we spreading it at? And what are we expecting to accomplish here? So, first of all, gypsum is basically calcium sulfate. It is calcium and sulfur. Let me find the actual analysis here. Calcium sulfate, CaSO4. That is the chemical formula, I guess, for the gypsum that we are spreading here. Now, there's 2 different types of gypsum. There's mined gypsum that comes out of a hole in the ground that, you know, kind of, I guess, naturally occurring. And then there's what we're going to call synthetic gypsum, which is probably actually what this is. Gypsum is used to scrub sulfur, or is a byproduct, I guess, of scrubbing sulfur from power plants. There is a power plant in Monroe, Michigan, which is not very far from where we are at right here. And so they use calcium to scrub the sulfur from the smokestacks from the power plants. The resulting byproduct is calcium sulfate or gypsum, and from what I understand, they have a mountain of this stuff, and that's what we have got here. So, what does it do? Well, gypsum does two different things depending on what you need and how heavy you apply it at. So, gypsum, being calcium sulfate, is really good at kind of amending our soil to make it build soil structure a little bit better, to give it more pore space, to loosen it up, and to prevent it from crusting and becoming very tightly bound together. Here's how that works, and we're going to get really into the science here. One of the things that we measure on a soil test is something called a CEC, or a cation exchange capacity. And basically what that is how many sites that particular soil has to bind nutrients, to hold on to cations, right? And I went and grabbed our soil test, looked them up for one of the fields down here to Berkey. It's not the one we're in, it's one across the road, because that was what I had, and it's not this year's test because I haven't seen those yet. It's actually a test from a year ago, but the numbers shouldn't be drastically different, especially the CEC number. So in that particular 60-acre field, I believe there was 8 samples done, and the CECs ranged anywhere from about 14 to 18. So for those of you that understand that, that gives you an idea what kind of soils that we're dealing with here. Fairly heavy. It's not the heaviest soil you've ever seen, but it's fairly heavy clay loam soils. That's what we've got. So now what does that mean? Well, that means it's basically a number that tells us how many exchange sites or how much capacity that soil has to hold on to nutrients, whether that's nitrogen or potassium or calcium, magnesium, sodium, what else is in there? I think that's it. Or other stuff. Hydrogen maybe is one of them. There's a couple of those that we are really, really interested in, though. And so one of them is calcium. Now, we apply a lot of calcium as lime, the high calcium lime, right? Well, this also happens to have a lot of calcium in it. We'll look that number up for you here, too, in a minute. But the soil test levels for base saturation percentage. So basically, of all of those exchange sites that we have in that soil, how many of them have a calcium ion or cation attached to them? And those tests, it was 66 to 75%, okay? Which is pretty close to in the range that we want them to be. I wouldn't mind the calcium being 70 to 80%. The 66 is a little low for me, but it'll be okay. What this calcium does is add some more calcium so we can, or what the gypsum does is add some more calcium so that we can raise that base saturation percentage. So there's 2 other ones that mean a lot to us. One of them is potassium. And so we just got done spreading a whole bunch of potash out here with an attempt to raise our potassium levels. And not just the pounds or parts per million or pounds per acre, but the base percentage, base saturation percentage, which on that particular field is anywhere from 2.5 to 3.6% potassium. So that's how much of those cation exchange capacity sites are tied to a potassium cation. Now the other one there that's important is magnesium. And magnesium on our field over here was 11.5 to 13.5. Now that's not too bad. Sometimes that number creeps up towards 20, and when that happens is when you can get these really tight soils. We can have a lot of issues with crusting, especially in the spring when we get a rain and we're trying to get crops to come out of the ground. And adding gypsum essentially helps, the sulfur in it helps to break the bond of the magnesium and the soil, that base percentage in it. It forms Epsom salts, which can then be flushed out of the field with water through the drainage tile, and it helps to flush some of the magnesium out of our soil, which if it gets too high is a good thing. Now we don't want it to get too low, but I would like our mag levels to be between 10 and 15, preferably closer to 10 in my opinion, but they're not bad. So basically The reason that this works to loosen the soil up, or to make it a little bit more less crusting, or softer, I guess is kind of the way to say that, is the calcium molecule or atom is a much larger atom than the magnesium is, and so it provides more pore space in the soil and allows more room for water and roots to infiltrate and to build that structuring and move nutrients and water through the soil. And so having too high a magnesium means that there's less pore space, and it makes that soil clump together and very tight. That's what we don't want to have happen. All right, we are still trying to dial in our rate here. We're getting closer. We're only off by a couple 100 pounds on that pass, so we'll try this one, see if it dials it in a little bit more. Anyway, that's not really what we're trying to do here, though, right? So flushing magnesium when my levels are between 11.5 and 13.5% on the base saturation, not a huge priority. Now, in order to do that and do it effectively, you really have to apply it at a fairly high rate. We're talking a ton to the acre, a ton and a half, 2,000-3,000 pounds per acre. That's not the rate we're using. The other function with gypsum here is that it's sulfur, right? It's got sulfur in it, and it's in a sulfate form of sulfur. And so we really need sulfur to feed our crops. And in the past, we have broadcast some AMS in the fall, which I'm not a huge fan of, because both the nitrogen and the sulfur are leachable. And this sulfur is leachable as well, but it's a little bit more stable than what I think the sulfur in AMS is. I don't know, I could be wrong on that, but just my opinion. But this is a cheaper form for us than ammonium sulfate is. I need to sit down and do the actual price per pound of sulfur, but I can put 500 pounds per acre of this product on, or in this case 700 pounds per acre of this product, cheaper than I can put on 100 pounds of AMS or 50 pounds of AMS. And I looked it up. This product is about 18% sulfur. I think it was 15% wet, 18% dry, something like that. And we are wet, so we need to factor that in. So we're getting about 15% of our 700 pound rate that we're using as sulfur. Well, that's quite a bit for the amount that we're putting on. I have to do the math there. What's 17 or 15% of 700 pounds? Calculator. 700 times 0.15 gives me 100 pounds of sulfur. That's not right. Is that right? 700 times 0.15 is 105. That's a lot of sulfur. That's plenty of sulfur. Much cheaper than AMS. And so we're using this gypsum as a supplemental sulfur source. That's my idea. I'm not doing it on all the acres. We're just doing it down here to Berkey. And if I got just a little bit left, we'll take it back in the spreader. We'll make a round in a field up west and see if we can pick it out. But yeah, that's the goal, and the idea here is that we are supplementing sulfur to next year's corn crop. And really, when I talked to my crop consultant, he said they can see that sulfur in the soil for about 30 months. So it should continue to feed the beans the following year as well. And if we get a little bit of loosening of our soil because we're putting it on too, that's great. We're not really putting a high enough rate for that on. The negative to gypsum is that if you have a low magnesium soil, you're going to flush that magnesium out, and then your crop can be deficient on magnesium. Where we spread our mag lime, that's magnesium lime. We spread that because we needed the magnesium. Those are not areas where we would want to spread high rates of gypsum. Now, our 500 pounds, 700 pounds is probably okay, but we don't want to go out there and spread a ton of gypsum because it's basically going to counteract the lime that we just put on there from a magnesium standpoint. It'll still help the pH side of it, but that's another benefit of gypsum over using high cal lime, is that we can add calcium to our soil and sulfur without really affecting the pH. This is a fairly pH neutral product, and it's because while calcium is very basic, sulfur is very acidic, and they neutralize each other. And so where you need to add calcium without affecting pH, this is a great product for that. So anyway, that's what we're doing. I got a couple other numbers here we're going to talk about when I get back in the tractor. It's going to be dark then, but we've got to reload. We've run a whole spreader load out, so I'm going to load up again. We're going to finish this field. We're going to try and get this pile spread out tonight yet. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but we got another pile coming tomorrow that we got to get spread, and we got to get back to Waldron as quick as possible. So, well, you can't see it, but we're reloaded. Can't see that beautiful sunset though, can't you? Alright, so we are going to finish this field here up. Alright, let's finish talking about a couple of things here as far as soil tests and stuff go. That's really shiny off of that stainless, isn't it? Phosphorus. So we spread some MAP earlier today. Now, we didn't spread a lot of MAP, but we spread some MAP. In that field across the road over there, our soil test levels of phosphorus, and this was a year ago, remember that, was 24 to 64 parts per million, ppms. 24 is about as low as we would like, but that's not a bad number. Below 20 is bad. We need to put more on. That's why we're putting low rates on. I'm sure that 64 zone was the zone that didn't get any. The 24 zone probably got 100 or 120 pounds, I think it was, in that field. I don't know. So we're putting phosphorus where we need it, but that's what variable rate does for us, is it allows us to not put it where we don't need it. And then we talked about potassium in the base saturations. What we didn't tell you was the parts per million number, which is anywhere from 164 to 229. Again, that 164 is probably a little low. We should be higher than that, but really 150 plus, we're okay. But we want to get that up. Now, we were talking about sulfur and how important this gypsum is from a sulfur perspective. Sulfur is a leachable nutrient. Much like nitrogen and boron, you're not going to build your soil levels of sulfur. But it is something that we do test for when we pull soil samples. And in that field, the soil test levels were anywhere from 7 to 9 parts per million of sulfur. That's not going to cut it, right? Like, that's not enough to raise a crop. That's why we have to be putting sulfur down, whether that's ammonium sulfate in a dry form, ATS, ammonium thiosulfate, in a liquid form with our starter, or what we're trying here, gypsum, spread this way. And this application, it's costing me a little more because we're doing 700 pounds instead of 500. I wanted to do 500 pounds to the acre, but that was a 70 tons that I would need down here, and they wanted to haul 50-ton loads, and so I said, fine, bring me 100, and we'll put 700 pounds on, because that works out. The math is pretty close there. So we're putting 700 pounds down. It's a little over $40 a ton delivered, and so, you know, we're still less than 15 bucks an acre, or right around 15 bucks an acre, I guess. Just under that. That's not too bad. If we can get all of our sulfur needs for 15 bucks an acre, plus we get that calcium out of it, and that's for 2 years worth, this might work. This might be a pretty good program that will work for us. So we're gonna try it. I don't know how well it's gonna work, but it's what I do. I test things, and now that we have this spreader and I'm capable of doing it myself, it allows me to do stuff like that. Plus, I found a decent gypsum source that's relatively close. This was a big product about 5 to 10 years ago. There was a lot of people using gypsum, and then the supplies kind of dried up and it got really expensive. I was doing a little research for this clip here, and found somewhere that said it should cost anywhere from $40 to $280 a ton. Well, $280 a ton ain't gonna fly. 40, yeah, we can make that work. And we're a little over that here, but that's still in the realm of it's worth trying. So anyway, I'm going to try really hard to get this pile used up tonight. I was hoping to go over to that field that we've got that's not right next to here, where we spread the lime yesterday. But it's dark now, and I don't really want to do it in the dark over there. Problem is, it's going to take me 2 trips, 2 loads. They aren't going to haul it over there and pile a load like it would be handier. It would be better. But it's all going to get dumped over here, and we're going to have to just make 2 trips with the spreader over to it. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway, we can spread it out across the road if we need to get this used up tonight. So, good news is it's spreading really well. Like, I was worried about how it's going to flow through the spreader. Not an issue. That first load spread out all the way down to less than a ton left in the spreader, and it was still flowing out the door full. Didn't bridge up at all, so that's good. Just double checking the analysis on this gypsum that we are spreading now. So it is about 25% moisture, and at 25% moisture, it's 14% sulfur, which at 700 pounds the acre, that's 98 pounds of sulfur that we're spreading. And it is 20, oh dang it, let me look again. 23% calcium, which at 700 pounds is about 160 pounds of calcium per acre. And that's factoring in the moisture and the water that's in it and the weight. That's pretty good. That 100 pounds of sulfur should do wonders for us. It took over half of this field, but we finally got our scale and our rate controller to match. So that is good. We're about done here. About a little over 13,000 pounds left in the spreader. Like I said, it seems to be spreading out really well, so I like that. It's not exactly the same as lime, but it's close. Really probably should pan test it. My pan test kit is back at Waldron. I don't really have the ability or the time to do it, and this isn't quite that critical. It's more like the lime where, yes, I want to get it out, I want to get a good even spread, but we're putting out a lot of products pretty cheaply. Just get it out there. Okay, well, I got the pile cleaned up mostly. There's a little bit here, but we got two more trailer loads getting dumped, so it's not a big deal. Spreader's full. We're gonna go spread this out and then head for home. All right, well, we're down to the end of this second field that we've spread gypsum on here. We got another pass to make, and we'll have it done, and we're down to 4,500 pounds or so. So we're just gonna quit after we get this one done. Close enough for today. So we'll come back tomorrow. We got 2 big fields and then that little Creek Flats 15-acre piece to do. Should have plenty of product. Have to do some math. I think we'll have plenty of product. Are we half done? Yeah, we got it close. These 2 fields are bigger than the north one. Small, I don't know. We're about half done. Anyway, good enough. All right, well, we'll just go ahead and wrap this one up here. We had a big day. I wonder how many acres we covered today. Let me look. According to my John Deere app, it says 555 acres today. That's a pretty good day. So we'll get this finished up tomorrow, and then we're going to go back to Waldron and keep spreading there because we got to get this potash used up before it might rain on Thursday. So we'll see how that goes, but it won't take us too long here, assuming that our gypsum is here when we get here. It'll take us 2 or 3 hours probably to spread it, get it loaded, do all of that stuff. But yeah, it'll be fine. So thanks for watching this one. If you would, hit that subscribe button, like the video. Would appreciate you doing that for me. And we will see you again tomorrow. Brock's coming tomorrow. Maybe I'll give him a GoPro and make him film something. He's going to be doing some tillage. I don't know if he'll be disking or chiseling yet, but he's going to do some kind of tillage and keep that moving. Dad was disking stalks all day today. Phil did a little bit of ripping for us. We don't have a ton of ripping to do back up to Waldron yet. Let's see, we've got a 78, a 46, a 57, and a 36 acre piece. Those, plus we want to do the corn stalks, the irrigated field. We want to run the disc ripper up there because that's going to go back to corn again next year. So that adds another 175. So yeah, I guess there's still a fair bit of ripping to do yet. Let's see, 46, 80, 125, plus 36, 160. Plus 57, so you're 210-ish, plus 175, 210, so 310, 385, a little under 400 acres to go with the ripper up to Waldron, so that's 3 or 4 days anyway. It'll take us a little while.